A general election took place on 24 February 25, 2013 to determine the 630 members of the Chamber of Deputies and the 315 elective members of the Senate of the Republic for the 17th Parliament of the Italian Republic. The centre-left alliance Italy Common Good led by the Democratic Party obtained a clear majority of seats in the Chamber of Deputies, thanks to a majority bonus that has effectively trebled the number of seats assigned to the winning force, while in the popular vote it narrowly defeated the centre-right alliance of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. Close behind, the new anti-establishment five-star movement of comedian Beppe Grillo became the third force, clearly ahead of the centrist coalition of outgoing Prime Minister Mario Monti. In the Senate, no political group or party won an outright majority, resulting in a hung parliament. Eventually a coalition between the centre-left, centre and centre-right was formed. Background: following the European sovereign debt crisis, Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi resigned from his position in November 2011. He was replaced as Prime Minister by technocratic Senator for Life Mario Monti. In December 2012, Berlusconi announced his intention to run for Prime Minister for a sixth time. Shortly after, his party, People of Freedom, withdrew endorsement for Monti's cabinet and Monti announced he would resign after sending the annual budget to Parliament, which was expected by Christmas. The Constitution of Italy then requires an election to be held within 70 days of the dissolution of Parliament by President Giorgio Napolitano. Monti's resignation came after he said that, following the Poundal's withdrawal, he matured to the conviction that we could not continue like this any longer, and that he could not govern with a loss of support for his platform. During Monti's tenure, Italy had faced tax increases and state spending cuts, as well as reforms intended to improve the competitiveness of the Italian economy. On the other hand, Poundal Parliamentary Party leader Angelo Alfano told Parliament on December 7 that Italy's debt, unemployment, and tax rates had risen in contrast to the economy since Monti became Prime Minister. In the approximately 1 year since Monti took office, unemployment rose by almost 2%. Previously Monti had controversially told the rising tide of youth unemployment to forget about a steady job for life, saying such as monotonous, anyway, and it's nice to change and take on challenges. He also called for changes to Article 18 of the 1970 Workers' Statute that forbids companies with over 15 employees from sacking an employee without just cause, saying that it can be pernicious for Italy's growth. The same reforms and austerity-focused policies which upset many Italians are perceived to have improved international confidence in Italy. Monti was supported by other Eurozone leaders, such as Germany's Angela Merkel and former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Merkel's spokesman, Georg Streiter, said that she had always worked well with Monti and had a relationship of esteem. However, when asked about Berlusconi, he said it was not up to him to decide domestic politics of other countries. German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäfer added that he did not foresee any destabilization in the Eurozone, but Italy to keep going forward by respecting its European commitments. In reaction, financial markets fell on speculation of further instability. While, specifically, Italian 10-year bond yields rose by 0.4% to reach 4.87% and the Italian Stock Exchange's flagship index dropped by over 3.5%. Campaign: from the summer of 2012, a number of parties and movements from the so-called third pole of the political spectrum, including Pier Ferdinando Cassini's Union of the Centre, Gianfranco Fini's Future and Freedom, Luca Cordero di Montezemolo's Toward the Third Republic, as well as a number of other politicians from both PD and Poundal, pushed for direct involvement of Mario Monti in an election. Monti's statement that he would resign after the budget was passed, was suggested by Reuters to be indicative of him seeking to run for office. Monti also told a press conference in France that populism was dangerous, and he further said that a failure to pass the budget would render more serious the government crisis, also at a European level, and that his resignation would then be irrevocable. The two largest parties in Parliament, the Poundal and the Democratic Party, said they would be willing to work together to expedite passage of the budget. PD Secretary Pierluigi Bersani said, faced with the irresponsibility of the right that betrayed a commitment it made a year ago before the whole country. Monti responded with an act of dignity that we profoundly respect. PD Deputy Secretary Enrico Letta said of the Poundal's withdrawal from the government that the financial markets will judge this latest outburst by Berlusconi and they certainly will not judge it positively. Bersani had won the centre-left primary election shortly before the Poundal withdrew from the government. Following a defeat in the primary, Mayor of Florence Matteo Renzi ruled out an approach, in writing, from Berlusconi's Poundal to join the party during the election. In the following weeks, both PD and Left Ecology Freedom announced their intention to hold primary elections for MP candidates on 29 and 30 December. The possibility of Monti directly involving himself in the election was seen as increasingly likely after the government crisis in December later that year, as Monti was invited to a European People's Party meeting at which Berlusconi was present too. A few days later, Monti published a political agenda for Italy, dubbed the Monti Agenda, and offered it to all political parties. After the third poll promptly agreed to use it as their own platform for the upcoming elections, talks started regarding a direct involvement of the Monti as premiership candidate. On December 28, 2012, following a 4-hour meeting and after being publicly backed by the Vatican regarding a potential bid, Monti publicly announced his candidacy as head of the third poll, which ran in the Senate as a unique component provisionally named Monti's Agenda for Italy, and in the lower house as a coalition of several components. Berlusconi said the platform his party would run on includes opposition to Monti's economic performance, which he said put Italy into a recessive spiral without end. He also told the media, on the sidelines of AC Milan's practice session, "I raced to win. To win, everyone said there had to be a tested leader. It's not that we did not look for one. We did, and how? But there isn't one. I'm doing it out of a sense of responsibility." Berlusconi and Five-Star Movement leader Beppe Grillo criticized the Eurozone and Germany's influence on European policy. Grillo wrote that the average Italian is literally terrified about the prospects of 5 more years of Monti-like rule. On December 8, 2012, a new political party formed around a think tank named Firma Il Declino, on an initiative by the economic journalist Oscar Giannino and supported by various economists. On December 19, 2012, the name Firma Il Declino was chosen, and a list was presented with Oscar Giannino as PM candidate. The party's program was also introduced, roughly inspiring to reduce the role of the state in the economy, reduce the national debt through disposing redundant assets, and to propose market liberalizations and privatizations. On December 29, 2012, a new coalition, Civil Revolution, was formed with the support of Italy of Values, Orange Movement, Communist Refoundation Party, Party of Italian Communists and Federation of the Greens. It is led by celebrity magistrate Antonio Ingroia and Mayor of Naples Luigi De Magistris. FDS co-leader Paolo Ferrero said it would be a fourth poll that would bring new hope for the left. Civil Revolution attempted to solicit M5S to join them, saying the door is open. Grillo, however, turned them down, writing on his blog, "The door is open for M5S? Well, thank you, but close the door again, please." On January 7, 2013, Berlusconi announced he had penned a coalition agreement with Lega Nord. As part of it, Poundal will support Roberto Moroni's bid for the presidency of Lombardy, and he will run as leader of the coalition, but suggested he could accept a role as Minister of Economy under a cabinet headed by another People of Freedom member, such as Angelino Alfano. Later that day, LN leader Moroni confirmed his party will not support a new candidacy of Berlusconi as Prime Minister in the case of an electoral win. Electoral system. The current election system is a form of party list proportional representation with a series of thresholds to encourage parties to form coalitions. Italy is divided into 26 districts for the Chamber of Deputies and 20 regions for the Senate. Each district is assigned a number of seats in proportion to its share of the population. To guarantee a working majority, the coalition or party that obtains a plurality of the vote, but fewer than 340 seats, is assigned additional seats to reach that number, which roughly is about 54% of all seats. Inside each coalition, seats are divided between parties by the largest remainder method. The coalition or party that wins a plurality in a region is guaranteed 55% of the region's Senate seats. As this mechanism is region-based, opposing parties or coalitions may benefit from it in different regions. It therefore does not guarantee any party or coalition a majority in the Senate. At the end of 2013, Italy's Constitutional Court declared that this electoral law failed to meet a number of constitutional requirements. Main parties and leaders. Coalitions and electoral lists. The coalitions and main electoral lists are coalitions consisting of several lists. Italy. Common Good, centre-right coalition, with Monti for Italy, unitary electoral lists, Five-Star Movement, Civil Revolution, Act to Stop the Decline, Amnesty Justice Freedom List, I Love Italy, Italian Reformists, Workers' Communist Party, New Force, Tricolour Flame, Casa Pound, Leaders. Opinion polls. Results for Chamber of Deputies. Italy notes. Aosta Valley the semi-autonomous region of Aosta Valley, in northwestern Italy, elects one member to the Chamber of Deputies through a direct first-past-the-post election. Some parties that formed electoral coalitions in Italy might have opted to run against one another in this particular region. Italians abroad 12 members of the Chamber of Deputies are elected by Italians abroad. 2 members are elected for North America and Central America, 4 members for South America, 5 members for Europe, and 1 member for the rest of the world. Voters in these regions select candidate lists and may also cast a preference vote for individual candidates. The seats are allocated by proportional representation. The election law allows for parties to form other electoral coalitions on the lists abroad, compared to the lists in Italy. In the 2013 election, this freedom was used by Left Ecology Freedom to provide a list as an independent party, instead of making themselves available as part of the mainland's coalition with Democratic Party. Notes. Seat totals notes. Overall result popular vote and parliamentary seats in the Chamber of Deputies. Results for the Senate of the Republic. Italy Trentino Alto Adige South Tyrol the semi-autonomous region of Trentino Alto Adige in North Italy, including South Tyrol, elects 7 members to the Italian Senate through its 6 constituencies. Each constituency elects 1 senator by first-past-the-post, except for the Pescine-Valsugana constituency in which 2 Senate seats are filled proportionally. Some parties that formed electoral coalitions in Italy might have opted to run against one another in this particular region. Aosta Valley the semi-autonomous region of Aosta Valley, in northwestern Italy, elects 1 member to the Senate through a direct first-past-the-post election. Some parties that formed electoral coalitions in Italy might have opted to run against one another in this particular region. Source: Ministry of the Interior. Italians abroad 6 members of the Senate are elected by Italians abroad. 1 member is elected for North America and Central America, 2 members for South America, 2 members for Europe, and 1 member for the rest of the world. Voters in these regions select candidate lists and may also cast a preference vote for individual candidates. The seats are allocated by proportional representation. The election law allows for parties to form other electoral coalitions on the lists abroad, compared to the lists in Italy. In the 2013 electional list for the Senate, all parties were listed independently without any coalitions formed. None of the parties were neither in internal coalitions at the mainland. So in 2013 the electoral situation abroad actually was not different compared to the electoral situation at the mainland. Notes. Seat totals overall result popular vote and parliamentary seats in the Senate of the Republic. By region vote result for the Senate in each Italian region. Source: Ministry of Interior. Reactions. States: The President of the United States Barack Obama congratulated letter for his election as Prime Minister. Media analysis of the result was one of political stalemate. Although Italy Common Good has a solid majority in the Chamber of Deputies, in Italy a party or coalition must have a majority in the Senate as well in order to pass legislation, as the upper and lower house hold equal power. Bersani said that Italy was in a dramatic situation. Italian and global shares fell as the result became clear, with the value of the euro also dropping. Strong results for anti-austerity parties were interpreted as showing popular opposition to the austerity measures of the Monti government, with the populist Five Star Movement considered to have had a strong election. Analysts were uncertain as to how this new party would behave in the legislature. On February 26 La Repubblica ran the headline boost for Grillo, Italy ungovernable, whilst Il Giornale described Berlusconi's result as a miracle. Il Messaggero declared that the winner is ungovernability. Government formation. Formal talks to form a new government were expected to start on March 10 with the official confirmation of the results and the convening of Parliament. The formation task immediately turned out to be tough due to the absence of a clear majority in the Senate, with Giorgio Napolitano being unable to dissolve the Parliament due to constitutional constraints forbidding a president from doing so during the last 6 months of his term. On March 22, after the election of House Speakers Laura Boldrini and Piero Grasso, and after 2 days of consultations with all the parliamentary groups, Napolitano designated Pierluigi Bersani with the task of forming a new government. Bersani immediately ruled out the possibility of a grand coalition with Berlusconi's right-wing coalition, and instead tried to form a minority government supported by the Five Star Movement. On March 28, after formal talks with Napolitano, Bersani admitted there was no chance to form such a government. Given the troubles in forming a majority coalition, Napolitano then decided to directly form 2 informal bipartisan commissions with the task of agreeing on a number of shared reforms. At the same time, a new presidential election was called for April 18. However, the lack of a clear majority turned out to be problematic also in this scenario, as the first 5 ballots failed to elect a candidate. The Democratic Party split into several factions due to internal conflicts involving the support of party candidates Franco Marini and Romano Prodi, leading to Bersani's resignation as party leader. On the 6th ballot, in an unprecedented move, Napolitano was elected for a second term as Italian president. Successively, Napolitano started talks again and on April 24 appointed the Democratic Party's Deputy Secretary Enrico Letta as designated Prime Minister. On April 28, he announced that he had managed to form a grand coalition of his Democratic Party, the People of Freedom, Civic Choice, the Union of the Centre and the Radicals that would take office and seek a vote of confidence the next day. The same day as the swearing-in, a gunman opened fire at the Prime Minister's office, Palazzo Chigi, injuring 2 police officers. Letta told Parliament in his inaugural speech Italy is dying from austerity alone. Growth policies cannot wait. He added that there would not be a property tax imposed and that a fairer system for the less affluent was being worked. He also won the vote of confidence by 453 votes to 153. Literature, Damanti, Elvo. Unsolto nel voto, ritratto politico dell'Italia di oggi. Later. Sagatti, Paolo. The Italian election of February 2013, a temporary shock or a harbinger of a new party system. Italy and Japan, how similar are they? A comparative analysis of politics, economics, and international relations, pages 121–136. References. External links. 2013 Italian parliamentary election pre-election report, The Monkey Cage, February 19, 2013, Italy election data, European Journal of Political Research Political Data Yearbook, Interactive.